Unit 1, Lesson 4, Scaled Relationships. I can use the corresponding distances and corresponding angles to tell whether one figure is a scaled copy of another. When I see the figure is a scaled copy, I can explain what is true about the corresponding angles. When I see a figure that's a scaled copy, I can explain what's true about the corresponding distances. So our warm-up today is that you're using these 3 polygons and they're scaled copies of each other. They're telling us that. We're not trying to figure it out. They're telling us we know. So now we're going to start matching up. Name 2 pairs of corresponding angles. So I'm going to start with this one because that's the one that jumps out at me. So I need to make sure that I write 3 letters when I name an angle. So it's going to be DCB, and it corresponds to HGF. And I realize this isn't a pair, but I still want to make sure that I highlight it. LKJ. Then I'm going to do another pair. So DAB corresponds with HEF. And LIJ. Now, if you remember from lesson 3, we talked about how corresponding angles are the same size. So what do I know? What can I say about them? Corresponding are the same size. So it doesn't matter how big or small, the corresponding angles are the same size. So now it says 3 quadrilaterals B. So again, we're looking at these same quadrilaterals, and we've already checked their corresponding angles. Now we're going to identify the distances in the other 2 polygons that correspond with DB and AC and record them in the table. So DB, so that's not already a line that's drawn in my polygon because all the lines in my polygons cut through the center of blocks, so they're not good to measure distance. So if I go across, that's DB. So it says that DB is 4 units, which is true. 1, 2, 3, 4. So they want to know which one corresponds to DB in EFGH. So that would be here. And that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that would be HF. And that equals 6. So then in the smaller one, it would be LJ, and it's 2. Oops, put that in the wrong spot. Now they're going to ask me to find AC. So I'm going to switch colors. So AC goes from, and while it's in the center of a box, when I'm counting vertically, I'm not counting diagonally through boxes. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's how they get 6 there. So now I'm going to check the other ones. This one, thank goodness, is on the line. Makes it easier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So GE is 9. So then I'm going to check. I'm counting the boxes. So that's 1, 2, 3. So KI is 3. So then it says, look at the values. What do you notice? Okay, I notice that they are all, when I would do a skip count, I could do 3, 6, 9, 2, 4, 6. I noticed that DB is not quite double as big, so it's 1.5 times as big, whereas LJ is half as big. Same thing, AC is half as big as KI because we would be doing a scale factor of 1/2. So look at the values. What do you notice? That quadrilateral ABCD is I'll keep going with what I'm going, is twice as big as quadrilateral IJKL. You could notice a lot of things. You could say that EG or EFGH is 1.5 times as big. You could say the thing about the skip counting. You could say they all have the same factors. So side lengths from polygons are hard to tell when you're looking at the grid, but you can look at other corresponding distances. So now we're still in that same activity and we're answering questions. So if AE is 4, what would be the corresponding distance on the second figure? So we're looking at HL. So to figure that out, I'm going to have to look at the other options that I have for measurements. So I know that I have 6 and 15. So I need to think, what would I multiply 6 by to get to 15 to get our scale factor? Okay, so I'm going to use a table, and I'm going to look at 6 and 15. So I want to get to 15. I know that I've got to figure out what's happening so then I can figure out the other side. So I divide by 6, and then I'm going to multiply by 15. Remember when we did these in 6th grade? So then if I have 4, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to divide by 6, and I get 2/3. And then I'm going to multiply by 15, and I'm going to get 10. So that means that HL is 10. Explain or show your reasoning. I explained it right here. Isaac, I used a table to demonstrate it. So now I'm going to look at if IK, so I'm going to switch colors. If IK is 5, so IK, so that'd be here, is 5. What would BD be? Okay, so again, I'm doing the same kind of thing. I've got my table, but this time I'm working in the opposite direction. So I have 15. I want to get to 1, and then I want to get to 5. So I'm going to divide by 15, and then I'm going to multiply by 5. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So I have 5. I'm going to divide by 15, and I get 1/3, and then I'm going to multiply by 5. Sorry guys, I'm going to clean this up a little bit. 1/3. So 1/3 times 5 is going to give me 5/3. So that means BD is 5/3. Because I used a factor because of the scale factor. So my reasoning is right here. So now, if you're in my Zoom class right now, we're going to be doing the scaled copy sort. If you're not in my Zoom class right now, you're going to skip this slide. So if you're doing this in the flipped model, then you're going to skip this slide. So now we're going to take a look at what you would do if you're in the flip model, which is what you're doing now and you're watching the video. So I want to figure out the ones that are using a scale factor of 2. So my scale factor of 2 is going to, that means I'm increasing the first one by 2 units. So I'm going to drag and drop. So I'm going to turn off my drawing tool and I'm going to start looking. So I have a scale factor of 2. So that means if I multiplied all the sides by 2, I would get the second figure. So I'm going to look, and this one goes 1, 2, 3 across the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, 3 times 2 is 6. So I have a scale factor of 2. So then I'm going to look for another one where the small one comes first. The small one comes first. So, I could look at card 2. So I'm going to count up along the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well, 4 times 3 is 12. So I know this one's going to have a scale factor of 3. Then let's look at another one that's got a small one first. So let's look at this one. I'm going to count across the top. So that's 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, 3 times 2 is 6. So this one has a scale factor of 2. So then I'm going to go looking for another small one that comes first. Oh, this one right here. Why did I miss it? So I'm going to count along the back side because that's the straight line. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So 6 times 3 gives me 18. So this one has a scale factor of 3. So then card 5. So I'm going to look at the radius, which we're going to talk about a lot more in Unit 3. But I'm going to look across, counting across the middle, the diameter. So it's 2 across the center of the first circle, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 across the second one. So this one also has a scale factor of 3. So then I'm going to look at card 12, they're exactly the same size. So that would mean you would multiply each side by 1. So all the units would be by 1. So that's going to have a scale factor of 1. Card 8 is the same way. They're exactly the same size. So all the measurements would be multiplied by 1. So now this is where it gets a little more tricky. And this is where the fractions come in and why I don't want you to avoid the fractions. So we have to think we're going from big to small. So we're technically dividing or multiplying by a fraction. So if I count, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then I have 1, 2, 3. So going from 9 to 3, we would divide by 3 or multiply by 1/3. I'm going to count this bottom part of the square. So that's 1, 2, 3. And that's 1. So if I was going from 3 to 1, I would be dividing by 3 or multiplying by 1/3. I'm going to count the back side, but it really doesn't matter. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember, they're telling us their scale factors. So we're figuring out what the factor is, not if they're scale factors or not. So you only have to count one side. So 4 and 8. So you're going from 8 to 4. So that could be divided by 2 or multiplying by 1/2. I'm going to do card 7 because it looks easy. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then 1, 2, 3. So 6 divided by 2 gives me 3, or 6 times 1/2 would give me 3. So now I'm looking at these last couple. I'm trying to find a straight line to count, and I can't. So I'm going to have to reuse that strategy that we talked about in the earlier slides where we find a different line. So I'm going to look at this line, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. So again, that would be 1/2 because 6 times 1/2 is 3. Oops, I got to turn off my drawing tool. All right, and then my last one. So this time I'm going to count across where the little like L shape is. So that's 1, 2, 3, and that's 1. So 3 to 1, I would divide by 3, or I would multiply by 1/3. So this one is also going to go here. All right, so there are my scale factors, and I'm looking at them, and I want to make sure that I'm noticing what they have in common. If you notice the order of the shapes, so when the small one comes first, you multiply. When the small one comes second, you're multiplying by a fraction, or you're dividing. Alrighty, so now let's look at the next slide. So it says, examine cards 10 and 13 more closely. What do you notice about the shapes and sizes of the figures? What do you notice about the scale factors? So something that I notice are the shapes are the same. The order is different. So this one had a scale factor of 3. This one had a scale factor of 1/3. So examine cards 8 and 12 more closely. What do you notice about their figures? What do you notice about their scale factor? Well, each pair of figures is an exact copy. So what do you notice? That their scale factor is 1. So that means that because 1 has the identity property, which means that anytime you multiply by 1, it's the same number. So now I want you to think about your cool down. So I've given you the image here. Remember, you're completing it in Canvas. And then, but this is so that you can draw on it, or if you can't see your image, this is where you would go and look for your image. Then, if you're still having trouble with this unit, you're not sure what to do next, and you want more practice, go on Khan Academy. If you want to hear somebody else teach it, Mr. Morgan teaches this lesson, and his links are in Canvas. If you want to hear somebody talk, if you want to talk through this with somebody else, like, I just need to, discuss it. Just make sure that I'm understanding it all the way. I want you to check in with your study buddy. And then you need a small group lesson because we're on lesson 4. We're really not understanding what's going on. Then you're going to send me an email with your specific questions. So I didn't understand the card sort from Unit 1, Lesson 4 today. Can I schedule a time with you to do a small group lesson? Or can I schedule a time to do the Desmos activity again? So whatever it is you think you need. So I will see you later.